Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Reservations. We're your hosts. I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Jeremy Blair.
And if you didn't see our update video, you probably are realizing that this is a little weird, but we did say that I had tickets to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, and Jeremy just didn't get his tickets.
No.
So, one would say that that's lucky for him.
Yes.
But I still have my tickets at least until tomorrow, so we gotta do it like this.
I mean, which is fine. I kind of like it. You know, I got the lighting set up. I think it looks okay. I got my notes right here. I got 2 tables. It's kind of nice. And then I didn't have to drive to your house. So.
Yeah, and you don't have to wear pants either.
And I'm not wearing pants. So yeah, wearing pants is dumb. So if you don't have to wear pants, don't wear pants. You know?
Yeah, I mean, what kind of society do we live in where we can't not wear pants?
I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, if anyone forgot what we were talking about, this week is the 98, right? 1998?
98, that is correct.
Comedy drama Pleasantville. Like I mentioned in our Amores Perros episode, I had never really gotten around to actually watching this movie, and so this kind of forced me to.
I don't blame you. It's not a movie that a lot of people talk about. It's not a movie that, if you bring it up, no one's going to be like, oh yeah, Pleasantville. Like, that's not really how it goes. Like, my parents really like it. That's how I watched it, when I was a kid, because my parents liked it.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, that's the only people I knew about this movie were my parents. That was it. So,
and I don't know, something just about this movie that, I could see where a lot of people may forget about it. Which is so strange because you really shouldn't forget about this movie. This movie's really good.
It is. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4. As I like to mention his rating system every now and then.
The coveted 4 of 4.
Yes, the 4 out of 4. And also, just before we really get started, we should probably take down the audio for Amores Perros on our and make it a video exclusive because of how fucked up it is on the podcast side.
If you want us to do that, if you can't stand listening to it, let us know, and we'll.
Nobody can stand listening to it. People who really like me tell me they hated it because it was unbearable.
I may just go ahead and take it down then.
And just make it a video exclusive. Like, make it, like, rebrand it. Like, it's not our mistake. It's an exclusive.
I don't know what happened with that. Hopefully this time around the audio should be fine.
Should be fine.
And we can upload the audio this time. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it.
Yeah. So Rain, what made you want to do this film in the first place? This is your pick, obviously. So let's dive into why you wanted to do this one.
So sorry everyone if I keep coughing. I'm trying to hold them in. Okay, there we go. Like I said, I've always damn it. I've always had this weird thing with this movie. Like I said, I've always wanted to see it. And so I was like, you know what? This will give me an excuse to finally watch it. It's got a great cast in it. Tobey Maguire, Reese Witherspoon, Jeff Daniels, William H. Macy.
Joan Allen. I love Joan Allen. So she's fantastic in this.
And so I was like, you know what? Just.
Oh my God.
I apologize. Everyone. But this. Oh my God. But this will give me a reason. Good God. It's all of our text messages.
Turn your phone on Do Not Disturb. Does that work?
Well, it's my computer catching up with all our messages.
Oh, gotcha.
But anyway, so again, to give me an excuse to finally watch it, because it always interested me from that first trailer that I remember seeing on one of the VHSs I had growing up. They had a trailer for it, and it always just interested me, this idea of being sucked into a TV and everything's black and white, and then as time goes on, the characters from the real world start to affect the TV world, and color starts to happen, and it was just really interesting. And so, like I said, just really mainly just give me an excuse to actually finally watch it.
Gotcha.
um yeah, and I was blown away. I mean, wonderful performances from Toby Maguire, uh Reese Witherspoon. I mean, everyone just had such an amazing performance in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think the movie's crowning achievement is the technical achievement of
Hmm.
mixing color and black and white in the same shot and them interacting with one another, right? Which is, at the time, it was the movie with the most special effects until Star Wars Episode One.
Yeah.
Um, and which is bonkers to think about, but if you really do a deep dive and you realize each of those color timing digital effects counts as one, right? And
Hmm.
so it accumulates to the most, right?
Yeah.
And how they achieved like the putting the makeup on Joan Allen
Hmm.
to turn her back into black and white with the green makeup,
Yeah.
um, which is fascinating, right? Her going to the soda shop and sitting down with Jeff Daniels as he takes it off is she was in full green makeup um, while he wipes all of that off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
was.
yeah,
Yeah, that shot in particular, um I was like, that's so cool.
yeah,
Like, I had even read the trivia right before that scene happened. Um, and I was like, that's so cool. Like,
yeah.
actually seeing them doing it and seeing Toby put on the makeup, and it's just a gray streak on her face. Oh,
And again, it had to be a basically a green screen effect, which is
mhm,
why they use green makeup because it has to be the right shade of gray, right?
right. Yeah. And of course, when we flip back when it's done, obviously they did not cover her
Right,
in the makeup, but
right.
the effect just, my belief was suspended perfectly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about let's just jump into the very beginning. So
Right.
what's interesting about the beginning is it's the flipping of the channels, the stopping on the that sort of TV land type network, right? That's
Mhm.
showing all of these classic 50s television shows. Um, and we get the promo for the Pleasantville Marathon, right?
Right.
Um, and then it's over and then we jump into the narrative. So what would normally happen is we would cut to somebody watching television, right?
Right.
That didn't happen this time. So it's this sort of weird non-diegetic sort of, I wouldn't even call it exposition, but it is, this sort of introduction to what the hell Toby Maguire is going to be talking about,
Mhm.
right? When we jump into the narrative. Um, and we see what it would normally be like later on when he's home, because we get a similar shot of him flipping through channels and landing on that television network, but then we cut to him watching television, right?
Right.
And so it's very strange and sort of jarring to open the film with it's almost like we were watching television and then we start the movie, right? It's
Right.
I wrote that down as soon as
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting the movie to open like that.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I wasn't, you know, because I knew TV played an important role in the film.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a little jarring. Um, but yeah, I think it was meant to be jarring.
Right, of course.
Um, yeah, and then we meet our characters, in their own unique ways of Toby Maguire. creeping on some girl.
Yeah. And you know, that's an interesting shot, reverse shot, where, you know, obviously it's set up to, you know, it's another fake out. It's just like the very beginning where we get that fake out of, oh, we're not cutting to anybody watching TV. It's, oh, he's not really talking to that girl, right?
Right.
She's really far away and he's a loser, right?
Right.
Is basically, I think, how we all picture Tobey Maguire anyway. um, and then we get Reese Witherspoon. I love Reese Witherspoon. This is a fun role for her because she's a huge slut. This one and is actually integral to the plot of the film. Her being sort of promiscuous, right?
Yeah.
And it sort of brings this sort of weird, what you would think would be a weird sort of allegory whenever they get to Pleasantville. But it ends up not quite being that way, but we'll get to that. And then we also get this sort of weird thing with their mom, right? Who is the mom from Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh yeah. That never registered with me.
Oh, okay. It's the same mom from Malcolm in the Middle. And something's going on with her, like she's about to bounce, you know, like she's like,
yeah,
leave. And it almost seemed like leave her kids because there didn't seem to be a dad there either.
Yeah, no, because she's on the phone with their dad.
Okay, yeah.
They're divorced, I guess. And it's like their dad's weekend or whatever. Because, you know, they're only, I would say 16, 17.
They're in high school. I mean, I would, 17, 18.
And she's going out of town with her like 23-year-old boyfriend or something. And I guess the dad was like, nah, fam, I don't want those kids. Fuck them kids.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, after the introduction to these characters, you don't blame him, right?
Yeah,
a loser and you know, this promiscuous lady. You don't want that at his house.
Yeah. A loser who quotes 1950s TV shows.
So what's interesting about that is I do kind of like the idea of there being a contest, right? Because it sort of solidifies and legitimizes his sort of obsession at this point in time, right?
Right.
You would think if there wasn't a contest and he was still like this, it would be stranger, I think, if he was that into this 50s television show. But I like that they kind of made that a point to where he's studying for this contest, right?
Yeah, he's not entirely without a life.
Right. Although it's for, this is just a stupid thing to say, but I think that it was strange that he has a friend who is just as obsessed as he is with the show.
Well, I would say obsessed, but not just as obsessed.
Oh, well, you're right.
He gets a couple of things wrong when I guess they're like quizzing each other.
Yeah. Which again, we get a little bit of that with Don Knotts, one of my favorite human beings of all time.
Oh yeah.
Now, so originally supposed to be Dick Van Dyke, which would have been sort of fun also because, the Dick Van Dyke Show and all that. But I think having Don Knotts there instead still brings that nostalgia, right? Because Andy Griffith, right?
Yeah.
And the Ghost of Mr. Chicken, Shakiest Gun in the West, Reluctant Astronaut. There's all of these things that Don Knotts is known for. Again, one of my favorite people of all time. I think he's so funny. And so having this 1950s sort of Leave It to Beaver, Andy Griffith Show-esque type setting, and having Don Knotts be the one to put them into that setting is sort of an extra layer of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Especially for like people like our parents who grew up watching the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah, but also kind of having him be kind of like a
ridiculous.
A puppet master of all this is also kind of sinister.
I wrote down is he the devil? I wrote that. He's not, but
I mean,
it,
why would he have this remote that looks like it should be from Bedazzled?
I was gonna say Jimmy Neutron, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
um, yeah,
maybe.
and so that's sort of left ambiguous and not really important, right? The narrative doesn't treat it as important who he is and why he's able to do these things. That's not important, right?
Yeah, the
Uh,
important
the,
thing is that he can, and he
right,
did.
and right, and almost like he's doing David a favor, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think one of I there's some things about this movie I have trouble with. One of them is, a slight suspension of disbelief for it being this specific show, right?
Right.
That the TV repairman quizzes him on it, just so happens to be the one he's obsessed with, blah blah, blah all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's fine, whatever. That's a little thing. Um, but once they get in to the television show,
Mhm.
um, now we have this perfect dynamic of someone who wants to keep it pure and wants to play along, and someone who absolutely doesn't want to be there and thinks this is stupid, right?
Right.
Um, and then the movie commences, right?
Right.
I and this is where, especially when Reese Witherspoon's character, what is her name, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yes, Jennifer um, has sex with Paul Walker's character.
Uh, dude, that whole scene was killing me. Um, because because he's supposed to be, a 1950s jock and with wholesome values, and he can't say boner, and you clearly know that that's what he's got, and he's like, I have to go home. I don't know what's happening. It's
Well, and see, that's the point. So we get to find out, little things like that obviously these are just characters in a television show, and in this world they are the characters. They are not the actors playing the characters, right? This isn't one of
Mhm.
those. It's not the French Mistake. Um it's it's the characters. And so when David Bud is late to the soda shop, Jeff Daniels's character, Mr. Johnson, is still wiping the counter, right?
And
Because he stops wiping the counter when Bud gets there, right?
mhm,
And and so because they're in these loops, right?
yeah, and he is wiped a raw spot into the counter because
And
Bud
so
late.
that in turn makes sense with Paul Walker's character not knowing what any of that is, right?
Yeah.
But of course, unlike, let's say, I'm going to just give out an example. In the Supernatural Scooby Doo episode,
Uh-huh.
when they go into the world of Scooby Doo, um, the pieces of paper with writing on it that are just squiggles,
Mhm.
they just see squiggles, right? They make a reference to this is just squiggles, right? Um, so where that is sort of, they're in the world, but only at face value, only at surface level, right?
Right.
These characters and these objects are able to be manipulated, right?
Mhm.
Um, which is, which of course is the entire reason of the rest of the movie, right?
Right.
It then infers the narrative. So the fact that they're able to do that at while watching this again in the first time in over 10 years, I kind of thought this was going to be a sort of allegory on premarital or unprotected sex, right? And
Right.
that is going to change the environment around them. But it ends up not being quite that way. It's not that cut and dry, right?
Mhm.
Because that's not the only thing that makes people, change, right?
Right.
It seems to be a lesson in conformity, right?
Right.
It's sort of like a 1984 story,
Yeah.
sort
Mhm.
of, right?
Yeah. 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 Because it seems like, um, very early on when Paul Walker's character, misses that shot,
Yeah,
the coach is like, "Don't touch it, don't touch it," you know, and because everyone's been dunking those baskets, and now Paul Walker misses. Yeah. So yeah, I I tried to figure out the meaning of it, and yeah,
and
conformity.
see,
Yeah.
that's one of my that's we'll talk more about it, but that's going to be one of my issues with the movie is I think it's juggling too many things.
Okay.
Um, for instance, and again, we'll talk more about it, but the civil rights allegory, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the movie needed it, um, or it only needed that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's I think it's juggling too many metaphors and too many allegory, right?
Okay.
Um, and that's just my personal opinion. Again, 4 out of 4 from Roger Ebert. Um, but I don't know. After watching it again, I felt that number one, the movie was a lot longer than I remembered. Um, two, it was juggling too much, and so but I guess we'll get more. Uh, we'll we'll get to that
Yeah.
hopefully soon
Yeah. um.
before you pass out.
um. But yeah, so it seems as
Oh my god.
it seems as a bit seems as once Reese has sex with Paul Walker, that's when things start to become uh different, because that's when he sees that rosebud.
Right.
Um and then it's just these little things here and there. And then, you know, um we get one of the coolest shots I one of the shots I really like, um when the words in the book appear.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool because Jennifer's like, yeah, I read some of it for a report, and they're like, do you know how it ends? And Tobey Maguire's like, well, yeah, and they're like, well, how does it end? And then as he's saying it, the book is filling with the actual words, uh, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah. I agree. I also in that same scene, we have so much blending of black and white and color, right?
Mhm.
Even to where Jeff Daniels is still black and white, and the counter is and the lights are, but the refrigerator behind him isn't. And
Mhm.
it's so subtle because it's a different shade of white, right?
Right.
To let you know it is in color, right? And there's a faint green tint to it. It's just little subtleties like that that I really liked. That would have been an object I would have chosen because it's not so obvious that it's in color.
Mhm.
Um, but if you're paying attention, it's obviously in color. And so and then later on you have a a black and white person throwing a color gumball machine, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's in his hand. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's brilliant digital color timing.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
It was, and another one of my another one of the shots I really liked is when Tobey Maguire's on that date with that girl,
Mhm.
and the cherry blossoms are coming down, and it's all in color, but he's still black and white.
Yeah.
Man, it's
Again, I know it's incredible, which is a lot of I think reason for this film to have such praise, right?
Mhm.
Is that first and foremost is just the way it looks, right?
Right.
And I can't believe you haven't mentioned it yet, but one of your favorite television shows, Psych. We have
Oh
Maggie
yeah,
Lawson.
Maggie
Yeah,
Lawson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's raining and she's like, what is that? I literally had to rewind it. I was like, is that Maggie Lawson?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's Maggie Lawson.
And really what Reese Witherspoon does um with Paul Walker, having sex at Lover's Lane,
mhm,
it it's the first time something is off script, if you will.
right.
It's the first time it deviates from the pattern, right?
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of a really good example. I still haven't yet, but I'm sure we've seen films where, in a similar fashion, something when something is introduced to a world where it doesn't belong,
Mhm.
and and puts something a little off kilter, the whole thing unravels, right? And I think that's sort of where it starts, right?
Right.
And so again, it's this sort of allegory for nonconformity, right?
Mhm.
Where everyone's a lot happier and more vibrant and in color when they are thinking for themselves, right?
Right.
And doing things against, let's say, societal norms or whatever. And in this case, it would just be, the way the show's supposed to go, right?
Mhm.
The way it was pre-written. Um,
Um, do you want to talk about the fire scene?
sure. So again, this is early on in the film where you think it's just going to be an allegory on sexuality,
Mhm.
right?
Because Reese tells her mom, uh, mom, there's ways of doing that kind of stuff by yourself. And I was not expecting that scene to go that way at all.
I didn't remember it at all.
Um,
Uh,
Ashley was trying to go to sleep and she yelled from the bedroom and was like, what are you watching? She's going, oh God,
yeah.
like repeatedly. And I'm like, I swear to you, I'm watching a movie. It's, I swear. And she's like, oh, okay. Um,
And that also, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be, the purest, most wholesome character in that world, right, is the
mm,
mother, right?
right.
And once that changes, once we introduce um, a personalized sexuality to her,
Hmm.
is where I think it it really starts to fully unravel
Yeah.
this world, right? And so I think that's where the most outrageous thing would happen, which is the tree catches on fire, right?
Yeah.
This world can't handle it. It's almost like if you were to watch Leave It to Beaver and Mrs. Cleaver was masturbating in the bathtub. You can't imagine. Um, and and so the whole picket fence would have exploded.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think that's what that metaphor is. Perhaps again, I'm sort of reading into it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how I read it too, is, she's having this sexual awakening. And I mean, what's the next thing that's going to happen? The tree's going to catch fire? Oh, yeah, it does. I just love Toby running into the firehouse and going, fire! And the guys are just kind of sitting there looking at him, and he's like, kitten? And then they're like,
we gotta go. And again, it's this break. They've never heard the word fire before, right?
"Mm,
There aren't any fires in Pleasantville. Again, this is an exaggerated um, idea from like Father Knows Best or Leave It to Beaver,
mm,
and so since it's a little heightened and exaggerated, nothing bad happens there, right?
mm."
Um, and so when this fire breaks out, they have no idea what to do because they've never seen it before. Um,
And
and
Toby ends up being the one to put out the fire,
right,
uh, and then gets a medal for it. like it's the thing to do.
Right.
Hmm.
And so another thing that I had noticed um rewatching at this time is, again, this movie's juggling a lot of things that's very ambitious.
Mm.
One of those things is an Adam and Eve allegory, when um I forgot her name, the girl that David's going on a date with,
Uh-huh.
um, gives him an apple to eat,
Oh yeah.
right? And he takes the apple and he buys it. And Don Knotts replays that for him to show him he is corrupting this world, right?
Mhm.
That he's living in, and that he is now a part of the corruption, not just Jennifer, right?
Right.
And it's odd. It's an odd sort of reference to make in this movie, with lots of different, like I said, metaphors and allegories in the air.
Hmm.
Um, because then shortly after we start getting the civil rights allegory, right?
Yeah.
Uh, where people who are in color, or as they would say, colored people, are being discriminated against, right?
Hmm.
Um, without any people of color in the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
A tale of discriminate discriminate. I can't talk.
discrimination.
Uh, with no with just all white people.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't I wasn't a big fan of that one, only because again, the movie doesn't start off that way. It doesn't
Right.
start off saying, "Oh, this is what it's going to be," right?
Right.
And it just ends up being this sort of quasi To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
um, with accompanying courtroom scene that's the homage To Kill a Mockingbird, where everyone who is now colorized is on in the balcony,
Hmm.
and everyone in black and white is on the floor, right? Which again is exactly shot like as shot in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Um, Not only is this a film about sexuality, race relations somehow,
Hmm.
it's also um, it's also a feminist tale, right?
Yeah.
Um, when Joan Allen doesn't make William H. Macy's dinner, she's not even there. She's with Mr. Johnson at the
Hmm.
soda shop. It's a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's, again, this is late '90s. This is '98. Um, Obviously, this is pre Me Too. This is before this new feminist wave. Um, so I don't know. Maybe people need to be reminded about these sort of gender imbalance of the 1950s. I don't know.
uh, I I just found that whole scene really funny,
Yeah.
where he comes home and he's like, "Honey, I'm home," and then he's like, "Honey, I'm home," and then he's walking around the house, "Honey, I'm home," and then makes his way into the kitchen like, "Where's my dinner?"
And
It's
again, that's sort of a similar thing of when Mr. Johnson is wiping the counter, right?
hmm.
He doesn't know what to do now that this track has been thrown off, right?
Right. Yeah. And God love William H. Macy, dude.
I
He
love William H Macy.
he plays the doting. No, no, that's not the right word. He just plays a really good 1950s husband
Mhm.
really well. Uh, Considering his work on Shameless is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even, I love William H Macy so much that those are completely two different people to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
and him in Fargo as well. Yeah, I mean, and actually, a little fun fact about Fargo is the woman who plays his wife in Fargo is in the card game with the other wives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Joan Allen, and that's when she realizes her cards are in color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, they were in Fargo together. Um, doesn't matter.
But but and then I love that, like, the mayor is, I'm trying to think of the right word. He's just dumb.
The mayor is an interesting character because it's sort of this idea of small towns and how prominent the mayor is.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I know who our mayor is because my mom knows him. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the time before that, and the time before that, is because they're in our community, at least in mine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who the last mayor was? Do you even know?
No, I don't.
Say because we're a big city, right? Or not a big city, but we're a city, right? Not a small
Right.
town. And so it's the idea of this small town and prominent local government, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody goes to town hall meetings.
Yeah, and goes bowling with the mayor,
Right.
and he thinks the bowling alley is going to keep them safe. That's something from the trailer I remember. Is well, what are we gonna do, Bob? I don't know, but good thing we're in a bowling alley. And
Yeah.
it's like, how is a bowling alley going to keep you safe?
I don't know. But at the time, he's not wrong. They were
Yeah,
safe while they were in there.
that's true. Yeah. Only the outside world was changing.
And what a great shot. So there's this phenomenal shot of him in front of the scoreboard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's meant to be an homage to Patton, um, the 1970 war film with George C. Scott, with him in front of the American flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it sort of plays that way also because he's sort of riling the men up to take back control of their lives, right?
Right.
Which is very similar to the Patton speech in Patton. One of the J.T. Walsh, the guy who played the mayor,
Mm-hmm.
passed away shortly after filming, and so one of three people this film was dedicated to.
Who are
Actually,
the other two?
one of them was, I think, a producer who God, it was in the thing. It'll take me forever to find it. I don't know.
Oh,
There's
okay.
three people it's dedicated to, and he's one of them.
Not a big deal. Yeah. Uh. Yeah, man. Um. And then just all hell breaks loose. After this kind of like rally,
Right.
um, people start, burning books. Um, People start getting more aggressive, and then what's finally the tipping off point is when Jeff Daniels paints the soda shop window
Yeah.
of
A new Joan Allen.
yeah. And that's it.
That's
And
it.
everyone just loses their shit. And
Yeah, and then the town is truly divided, right?
Mhm.
In between people who want to keep um, things the way they are, almost keep these traditional conservative values, and
Mhm.
then those who want to embrace um, new ideas and a more liberal mindset, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Um, and again, this is where we get that civil rights allegory, right?
Mhm.
Between the two types. of people.
Yeah, especially when they introduce the commitment, the like the commitments of pleasantness or something.
Yes. And one of the ones that made me kind of chuckle was the paint, because
Mhm.
it says the only paints being used are white, black, and gray, despite there being other options available. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
And again, it's sort of this weird sort of meta thing, if you want to think about that, they are aware that they're in black and white.
Mhm.
Um, in that not only are they aware they are in black and white, but they are aware other colors exist, right?
Right.
Sort of a strange thing to wrap your head around, but um,
Well, I mean, it makes sense because uh, it is a little bit of a almost kind of meta a little bit,
yeah,
that they know that they're in black and white, but they know what these other colors are, especially when Jeff and Toby make that mural
right.
and he's reading off the different colors that they used.
In a night, by the way,
I
the
know.
mural. Um, and I know Toby didn't do anything, so it was all Jeff Daniels out there.
Huh.
Um, oh, by the way, Jeff Daniels, I've always been a gigantic fan of his.
Oh yeah, man.
And so this was fun for those of you who just know him for Dumb and Dumber.
Hmm.
I highly recommend this one if you haven't watched it already. The Newsroom is incredible. He has great performances in like Good Night and Good Luck and in Steve Jobs. So,
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in Steve Jobs.
oh, I'm a gigantic fan of his. He's so good.
Oh yeah. Um, you know, and that courtroom scene is really cool because we see how it works because Toby's figured out how
Yeah,
people.
again, it's having someone you don't want to say break character, but it's almost thinking for themselves, right? It's
Mhm.
this non-conformist way of thinking that breaks you out of this black and white uh, world that they're in,
Mhm.
right? And I guess it takes the one extra person to make everything in color. So
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess turning the mayor into color was the final push
that was it.
to turn everyone else into color and the entire town
Right.
into color. Um, uh, you know what I never understood?
Hmm.
Why why did Toby Maguire leave?
I was going to ask the same question, but the opposite. I was going to ask you, why do you think Reese Witherspoon stayed?
Um, well, I mean, she kind of says it that
That's my fault. Sorry.
is that she did the whole slut thing. She wants to see what it's like to.
It's cool she was aware that she was. Um, so yeah, I once that that turn of the narrative came about, I was like, oh, I don't remember her staying, and that's sort of strange, right?
Mhm.
Um, I kind of understand. I do understand Toby Maguire going back. It's like he really doesn't belong here. He needs to go back into the to his real world.
Right.
He screwed this one up enough, and for the better. Uh, um, but Reese Witherspoon staying is sort of a strange way for the story to go, I thought.
Yeah.
Um, it's not really problematic. I just think it's, I didn't see it coming. That was,
Well, and of course, now the town is almost like a real town because it
yeah.
takes her on to Springfield to go to college.
Yes. As um, set up in the classroom, they are only aware of Pleasantville, right? They are
Mhm.
not aware of anything outside of Pleasantville.
Mhm.
Um, again, it's that loop that they're all in, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, the end of Elm Street is the beginning of Main Street. and vice versa.
Yeah. My only thought uh is, what did Toby tell his mom when she's like, "Where's your sister?"
I thought about that. I was thinking that maybe now that he's back, he is now in a world where she never existed. I thought about that. Um,
Yeah.
uh, where he's never had a sister, right, in this world, and only he remembers that. Um, I don't know. That would be my answer. It's not a satisfactory answer, but that would be my answer.
Well, I mean, maybe, or the mom could have been like, "Oh, she ran away. Oh well."
Yeah. Meh.
Yeah,
Yeah, she didn't seem like a good mom.
I know.
So
Which is why I was like, Toby, then why'd you go back, dog?
I don't know. I think now learning what he now knows at Pleasantville, he was able to, I don't know, help his mom more, right?
Hmm.
Maybe able to, comfort her more and build her up to be a better parent, maybe, is what
Maybe,
I took from that. And from their exchange when he gets back in the dining room. That's what I figured out. That's what I
maybe,
thought.
maybe. Well, so, Jeremy, are you ready
Yeah.
to wrap up? Wrap up? Wrap up?
Yeah, man. This this movie is, again, in terms of technical achievement, um, it's top notch
Oh yeah.
in its representation, in its
Hmm.
presentation.
Absolutely.
Um, one of the first films to be digitally color timed is "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," um,
Hmm.
where they had to make the surface very tan and the sky very blue, right? And to be able to do that, they had to do it digitally.
Hmm.
Um, and so going from that, very simple yet effective digital color time to this, which is very complex, and and not only is it complex and intricate,
Hmm.
but it's important to the plot, right?
Right.
It is the plot in a sense,
Yeah.
and so again, it's amazing.
Yeah. You know, besides a movie that's, very heavy with CGI, I don't think a movie has ever been done like this so well.
Right, I
I
agree.
I want to say we talked about another movie from the 90s that had really impressive CGI. I don't remember what.
I
My
don't know.
brain's not working right now. Um,
I think the most impressive CGI for its time is Jurassic Park, but that's
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because that was '93. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've ever. I would never talk about Jurassic Park. I'm not a huge fan. So,
How dare you, sir?
yeah,
The movie's
that's
amazing. Um,
bombshell.
but yeah. So Jeremy,
Pleasantville.
what are we talking about next week?
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you next week's, but then I'm also going to give you my pick after that because the next one takes a little bit more time.
Okay.
So our next week's episode is going to be Cormac McCarthy's adaptation of The Road with
Okay.
Viggo Mortensen. And I have his name here. I'm a big fan of his. Cody Smith McPhee. He was the kid in Let Me In, which is a remake of Let the Right One In. He was also, if you saw the recent X-Men films, he's Nightcrawler.
Hmm.
Yeah. He gives an amazing performance for being so young. There's a lot of surprise cameos in there as well. It's one of the saddest films I've ever seen. So get ready for that. Going again with my theme of downers.
Yeah.
So next week, The Road.
All right.
But
Oh.
my following pick, which takes a little bit more effort because I'm going to ask something a little extra of us,
Okay.
is Ian Reed's and / Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Oh, son of a bitch.
So what I'm going to ask of us is that we both either read or listen to the book and see the movie. You need both.
Okay.
So I highly recommend the audio version of the book. It's amazing. And I think it's a little bit faster. I encourage our listeners to also either read or listen to the book and see the movie. It's on Netflix. And it's an amazing experience. I think you're really going to dig it. I think it's going to surprise you.
Awesome. Well,
but of course, next week, The Road. So
The Road. Alrighty. Well, we hope everyone enjoyed Pleasantville. Who knows if next week will be like this?
I kind of like it.
We'll see. And we'll see you next week for The Road.